NSA Northwest, NSA Northwest, let's try that again. Hey, NSA professional members, I am Melanie DePoli, located here in Seattle, and I am interviewing Corey Perlman today on his use and his team's use of Instagram. So Corey, take it away and do a quick introduction, and then we'll get started.
All right. Thanks for having me, Mel. This is Corey Perlman. Yes, as Mel said, my team, I employ about 7 people to do digital marketing work for about 50 companies around the world. And Instagram is definitely a platform that we use a lot. I also use it a decent amount in my speaking, so we'll get into that a little bit. And I'm a big, avid NSA fan, and as most of you know, we'll be co-chairing the 2018 convention in Dallas. So that's me.
That is awesome to hear. I am really excited about that. So let's get started with what is your Instagram strategy?
So I would say, I guess a couple of things, kind of big picture, one for our clients, and I talk about this a lot when I'm on stage, is, the demographics tend to pull towards the millennial market. A lot, obviously Facebook owns Instagram. And so a lot of the anti-Facebook users tend to use Instagram. What I find personally, as well as with our business accounts, that the people that I don't get engagement with on Facebook, or I don't see on Facebook, I do see on Instagram. So there are some friends of mine, if you want to just do it from that point of view, who are anti-Facebook, but if I post something on Instagram, they're one of the first ones to comment on it. So I think that they've just sort of turned on Facebook, turned off on Facebook, if you will, just because of all the noise and such on there, and moved over to Instagram. And then, the millennial market is definitely there. I would say, age 35 and below. Snapchat, which a lot of people have talked about, I would say is a little even younger than that. So, ages by demographics, statistically ages, 13 to 22, somewhere in that range, and where Instagram tends to have its sweet spot right now is anywhere between 25 and 35. So, if your market is there, if the millennial market is a part of your strategy, then I think that it's important to do. So for some of our clients, we do it a lot. And for other clients, we don't do it at all. And it really just depends on the demographic. And the other thing I'll say about overall strategy is, obviously, and I say obviously, I mean, most people know this through Instagram, some don't, and that's okay, that it's a highly visual social media platform. So the strategy changes on that platform versus definitely LinkedIn, definitely Twitter, and a lot of degrees, definitely Facebook. It's completely visual. So attractive, stunning, great images, are what you're looking for on Instagram. Interesting images, cool images, short videos, all that. Content takes, a back seat to images when it comes to that particular channel, and it's important to know that going into your strategy.
So you mentioned a lot of great points there that I would like to highlight and ask you to elaborate on further. First of all, you mentioned video. How are you using video on Instagram? We use, and some of our clients use, definitely snippets of video. So you're not going to do anything long. I will say candidly, I don't use Instagram Live that much, typically just because our audiences tend to still be stronger on Facebook. So we, if I had to prioritize the platforms that we use for our clients, because our clients are a little bit, I guess I would say a little bit older in demographic in terms of their customer base. So, but that being said, we have some travel agent clients as an example who go on safaris and things of that nature, and they'll go live via Instagram to capture some of that market. There's Instagram continues to kind of follow what Snapchat's doing and does some fun things when it comes to stories and things of that nature, and you can make those animated and make those into video, and you guys see some of those things where it kind of looks like, people are celebrating for a second, and then it refreshes, and it does it again and again and again, and it's kind of like this neat sort of visual that you see. It's animated, almost less than video, although it is under the video feature there. But so, I would say definitely snippets of video, probably under 15 seconds, is what we tend to use for a lot of our clients and such. Slideshows is another thing that we like to do on Instagram a lot, which again is animated, but that goes under the video category. So I would say, those would be the two options: very short, snackable pieces of video, and or again with the images in a slideshow type of format.
And you also mentioned stories. Are you or your clients using stories? And if so, how are you using them? And what kind of results are you seeing? Because from what I'm noticing, there are people who only monitor stories, and then there are people that only monitor the native engagement on Instagram, and finding the balance between the two can be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, so again, we really try to narrow into who our demographic is. So for example, if it's a, like I did a speech for KTM Motorcycles, and their audience, their fans can be very young, so they're very Instagram savvy. So we would double down on stories for them because their fan base knows Instagram so well that stories is second nature. But your traditional sort of newer Instagram member doesn't really understand stories that much. You see them at the top, but people tend to still, just like you do on Facebook, just sort of, like you said, flow through the native stream of photos that are on there. So not just kind of sound like I'm skirting the question, but it really depends upon the audience. So if we're going to use stories, the audience needs to tend to be very savvy on Instagram. And just so the folks understand, when next time you go to Instagram, look at the top, and you'll see those little circles at the top, and those are the stories up there. And it gives you the opportunity to kind of present a series of photos versus just one at a time. And the goal there is to try to capture a certain moment in time, or day in time, if you will, as opposed to just one particular image. So as a speaker, since we're talking to that audience, you might do your event that you're doing. So morning preparation, on stage, after the event is over, signing some books, giving the meeting planner a hug goodbye, and sharing that story. And so when somebody clicks on the story button, just to get you in the nitty gritty for a second, you literally will continue to click on that particular picture, and it'll take you through the time lapse of that day. So bam, 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 like a slideshow. So that's kind of the makeup of a story. As far as results, Mel, that's a tough question. I don't know. I mean, it's still new, it's still young. I would say that, I think that stories get a very critical piece of real estate on Instagram right now, because not a lot of people are doing them. So if you're on Instagram right now and you're kind of struggling to get engagement, 2 comments, a couple likes, things like that, try a story and see if that doesn't spike your engagement a little bit more, just because it sits up at the top there for a good couple hours, just because a lot of other people that they're on with Instagram don't do stories. So as opposed to the pictures continuing to roll off screen, the stories will tend to stay for a lot longer.
Perfect. Now, next question. How does the Instagram strategy that you leverage, how does that integrate into your overall social media strategy, and then from there, your overall marketing strategy?
Personally, what I do, just kind of taking us as speakers for a second, I tend to use it more as a sort of artistic narrative of my life, I guess, to some degree. Whether or not that's interesting to anybody, I don't know, but it just tends to be what I do. So, your cool family photos, definitely some cool on-stage stuff that I'm doing, but more just kind of interesting pictures as opposed to, value stuff. And again, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, Mel, but that's just kind of been my personal strategy up to this point. I get some pretty interesting engagement with that stuff, different than Facebook, which is kind of cool. And then hashtagging becomes a much bigger deal, I think, on that platform than Facebook, because people search through hashtags a lot more than they do on Facebook. So, I've got a podcast that I do, which a lot of listeners probably have, and using some of the hashtags that are more mainstream will get you some outside engagement than you wouldn't get from your inner circle necessarily. And so if you do the same thing on Facebook, you wouldn't get that. Whereas on Instagram, you use the hashtags strategically, you'll start to see likes and comments from people and businesses outside your sphere of influence, which is pretty neat. Kind of like Twitter in that kind of environment. Again, you know, what we like to do is with our clients, and this is something tactical that you can take from this approach is, you know, if it is value, you know, so let's just say we have we'll say we have a speaker client, and you just, you know, you put together an article of the 5 tips to, you know, creating employee engagement, let's just say. You know, that's not going to work on Instagram. So what we would do with that is we would take the meat, the snackable pieces of value of that article and turn it into an infographic and post that on Instagram. So we would make the content visual as part of our overall strategy, and you asked how it flows through our overall strategy. So if we're creating one piece of value per week for a client, we have to turn that into an image friendly piece of content. And the resource that we use for that is canva.com. So Canva, CANVA.com, and my team are big fans of that particular resource, and it enables us to take written content and turn it into a visual piece, either by using an infographic, or we'll take a quote from the article and we'll overlay it on top of an image of maybe you speaking, or maybe, you know, it's more of a generic leadership photo, and we'll embed the quote or overlay the quote on top of that image. So hopefully that makes sense.
It does. You also mentioned hashtags and the difference of using them on Instagram as opposed to Twitter or Facebook. Looking at your account, it doesn't seem that you use too many hashtags. Are you selective as far as when and how you use them, or do you just prefer to shy away from hashtags?
It's probably more of if you're looking at my personal one, it's probably more of just laziness. You know, like I tend to use Instagram, at least right now these days, almost more as a personal platform than a business platform. Although I do have businesses, you know, who are connected with me and such. So it'd be better to look at our clients' ones. So then, if you look at our clients, you know, we try to use, you know, not too many, but, you know, anywhere maybe between 3 and 7, you know, hashtags that make sense. You know, we have a lot of Dale Carnegie training clients. So when we post for them, obviously we want to use local hashtags. Mm-hmm. So we would anchor it with a geographical hashtag, and then industry hashtags, leadership, training, management, sales, you know, things like that, where, you know, we try to kind of narrow the people who are seeing it to hashtags that they might be interested in or might be following. So, but definitely, for those of you listening out there, you know, really kind of explore anchoring your hashtags to, and play with those, because that's a big part of getting your message outside of your typical followers. And sometimes you'll land a good one that will get you some engagement, and sometimes you won't. But what I really love about Instagram is when you start to type in a hashtag, it'll tell you how many posts have been on that hashtag. So if you type in sales training and you say, well, there's only been 3,000 posts on there, but then you type in sales and there's been 18 million or something, whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, it kind of helps you keyword research in a nice, easy way. So it's pretty cool.
Yes, I definitely like they make the hashtag suggestions, and it also seems on Instagram as opposed to Twitter, there's less tolerance for nebulous hashtags. They want actual literal hashtags.
Agreed. And I think that's just a good general rule of thumb for people that, you know, you just got to pretend people are following you to read what you're putting out there. And if you're just cluttering your posts with an exorbitant amount of hashtags, then that's just frustrating to the user. So I would say quality over quantity. Use a couple and try to do them really well if you can.
So you talked about strategy earlier and what makes Instagram different. the question I have for you is, why do you choose to use Instagram instead of other social media platforms that perhaps would have a bigger audience or a more engaged audience?
Well, one of the reasons I love Instagram is because of its relationship with Facebook. So, we're big on advertising on Facebook. It's such a noisy and crowded marketplace that almost every one of our clients, we have some sort of ad budget for it to just try to get the message to more people. It's the bottom line. You have to do that these days. And the nice thing is, once you figure out on Facebook how to advertise, you've all automatically figured out how to advertise on Instagram, because they're literally one and the same. So anything we do on Facebook, we pretty much can replicate if we want on Instagram. So that's one of the reasons I love it. And I also think that it's important to say that, as digital marketing kind of strategists, if you will, we have to plant our flag and determine whether or not we think the site's going to be around for a long time. You think about some sites like Periscope and, obviously back in the day, MySpace, but they're, Google Plus, the social network, there's been networks that have come and have gone. And so the other reason I like to plant my flag and our clients' flags on Instagram is because, again, its relationship with Facebook. I believe 10 years from now, Instagram will still be very much alive and well, whereas I'm not 100% sure I would say the same thing on Snapchat. I know people love Snapchat. I know the younger generation, I don't want to sound like an old fogey here, but it's still living on an island by itself.
Yep.
Will it maybe, get married to Twitter? Maybe, but keep in mind what happened with LinkedIn. LinkedIn was acquired by Microsoft, and so now I would say the same thing for LinkedIn. I mean, they've got, a major player that they're connected with that signifies that it'll probably be around for a long time. So that's another reason I really like Instagram. Sorry, there's a large truck coming by here, so bear with me.
That's okay. And even if Snapchat were to get married, as you say, to Twitter, that doesn't mean much since Twitter has its own problems. So
that's a good point. It does. I'm not the biggest. I haven't said for a long time that I've never been the biggest Twitter fan. But again, because I always just look at it from business results. I mean, and my clients tend to be a little bit different than maybe some others who love Twitter. But I've just never really. It's always been third or fourth priority on my list. And yeah, they're struggling right now. Besides the the celebrity type thing, and I love it for news. I love it for sports teams. I love it for that type of stuff. But if you're an attorney, if you're a speaker, I guess a little bit of celebrity status there. But most businesses out there found it challenging to garner results off of Twitter. But going back to what you just said, if Snapchat and Twitter married, at least they'd be able to combine resources and maybe figure out something that they haven't figured out already. So that would make me more confident in their life expectancy if they decided to hang out together, but we'll see.
So do you use any third-party tools to help you manage the accounts?
It's a very good question, Mel. That's our biggest challenge with Instagram is they are not very friendly for an agency perspective. For example, they limit...
No, they are not.
Yeah, they limit our ability to be able to manage multiple accounts. I think it's up to 5 is what my team has told me. So that's a little bit of a problem for us. Hold on one second. What else? Let's see. So third party. So they make it difficult, and they also make it a little bit difficult for third party solutions to use Instagram. So I tend to encourage my team, and I would encourage the people who are listening to natively use Instagram as much as you can, because it just seems to come across a lot clearer and easier. I'm sure there'll be third party sites that will come out that will kind of try to enable you to be able to post on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and all that, but I don't know. Another interesting study that I've noticed recently is when we post to Instagram and share to Facebook, our engagement on Facebook drastically goes down, which is really interesting to me. All it says is posted. It looks just the same as it normally would. It just says sort of posted through Instagram, or it says something in there to that effect, but it seems to dramatically decrease our engagement. So I
pound on my team about, even though it takes a few more minutes, just post it natively. You know, just pick 2 or 3 sites that you're going to double down on, and don't worry about syndication, you know, platforms. Just go to each of the sites and put them in and make sure it looks perfect. And hashtag it perfectly and do it that way.
So you mentioned that engagement goes down. Does it go down on Instagram? Does it go down on Facebook? Does it go down on both?
It goes down on Facebook, the one that we share it to. Not, you know, so we natively post it on Instagram, it's fine, and then we share it to Facebook, and for whatever reason, because it was syndicated there as opposed to natively put there, it tends to dip. I don't have any specific data to that yet. I just have noticed that. So just something that I've been like, you know, I've actually found myself later on reposting something, again, like natively or straight on Facebook, because of the lack of engagement that I received or our clients received when we shared it from Instagram. I'd be interested in hearing if other people are seeing that as well, or maybe that's just us. I don't know.
I've noticed a similar concept. Facebook seems to really drive home the point of, we want you to use Facebook and Facebook only. We don't want you to use third-party tools. And the features they're rolling out are very much in alignment with supporting that concept, even allowing you to pre-schedule in groups and on pages and everything.
Well, you just made a really interesting point, actually. You know, if you think about it from Facebook's perspective, they don't, even though they allow you to do it, and even though they're, again, sister and brother, they don't necessarily want you to post from Instagram and go ahead and publish to Facebook without going over there, because they're not getting that time spent on each platform. So maybe it's just not being shown to the amount of users that if you post natively, you know. So you may have just stumbled upon the answer to what my challenge is.
Well, I hope that helped. So how do you track results for your clients? What do you advise them that we're going to watch this way they don't get seduced by numbers? The wrong.
Yeah, good question. You know, yeah, so the old adage is, what is the value of a like, right? And that is a very difficult question to ask, and some skeptics may say very little, and they may be right. Again, it depends a lot on the business, you know. And as speakers, I think that we have a little bit of credibility aspect there that goes that, you know, the more engagement we're getting on social, that when our tires are getting kicked on there, that means something. You know, if a meeting planner checks out your Facebook page, your Instagram page, your LinkedIn account, and sees a lot of activity, I think that their overall feeling of you goes up versus the opposite, you know, where it also could go down. So each industry is different, but I would say to speakers that it is fair to say that getting more engagement definitely is a positive in terms of that ROI of just a little bit of the credibility factor. Other results that we look for, definitely when we advertise on Instagram, we can track clicks. So that's a very clear and specific result that we watch and monitor. Clicks from the paid post to whatever website that we're sending them to. So that's a clear result that we will look for. There's another tool that we have just started using called Sniply, snip.ly, and it enables us to send people to websites or articles and things of that nature, and give them a call to action or some sort of download or something that kind of comes out on that article. So it enables for conversions, essentially. So we're still playing with that tool as well, but instead of sending them to a third-party place without any availability to stay in touch with them or interact with them, now when they go to that place, something slides out to either offer them information or collect their information. So that's, you guys can go take a look at that and see if it's worth exploring for you, but snip.ly.
One of the phrases that I use with my clients all the time is numbers never lie, but they also don't tell the whole truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I use that to help focus them in on you know, this is what we actually need to watch, or this is why we're watching this number, but don't put too much emphasis here or there, but understand how they all work together.
Yeah, we say the same thing to our clients too. And I think that, you know, and I know it sounds like excuses from social media people who are concerned about numbers, but it drives me nuts when people are so narrowed in on numbers that they're losing the big picture. You got to keep in mind that the old adage is it takes 7 connections to close a piece of business. So how the heck do you measure that? You know, so
some newer studies are saying upwards of 15.
Yeah, so I mean, somebody may have found out about you in January, but may not do business with you until August or October. You know, so the way I tend to look at it with our clients is, you know, how's your business doing? You know, how's the lifeblood of your business? You know, is revenue going up? Is profitability going up? Are customers going up? You know, that type of thing. And if they're all heading in the wrong direction, well, then I don't want that, you know, on my conscience. So we need to make some changes. But if you know, the universal strategy is making things go in the right hockey stick, the right direction, then I think that we're doing some things right. Again, we still measure inside of that a lot just to be able to determine whether or not certain things are working versus other. We do A/B testing on ads, on emails, everything that we do. You know, in Instagram, we like to do an A/B test, which means that we'll do one ad with one piece of picture and then another ad with the same content with a different picture just to see if one gets more engagement or not. But, you know, like you said, when it determines the overall strategy, we're very careful with that kind of thing.
And then the final question I have for you is, what is your single best Instagram tip?
Instagram what?
Tip. Advice that you have.
That's what you said.
Yes.
Thank you. For some reason, I couldn't understand tip. Got it. My favorite and most useful Instagram tip. Let's see. Let's see. I would say, you know, really focusing in on the image and not just phoning that part in, you know. And what I mean by that is because it's such a image, you know, ready site. That's sort of what Instagram is so focused on, that's going to determine 90% of whether or not you get engagement on there or not. So don't phone that part in. You know, use either your own images that tell the story, or, you know, again, as speakers, the value of seeing you on stage in front of a large group of people doing your thing, you know, really will resonate with meeting planners and people that see it, you know. So I guess my actionable tip, since we're talking to speakers, is don't wind up on stage in front of 3,000 people and fail to get spectacular images. Don't regret being on the perfect stage and not getting the images that you wanted. So if you know you're going to be in Vegas in front of 2,500 people, insist that you have somebody who's taking professional photography of you on stage in front of all those heads nodding in agreement and laughing at your jokes. That's what I would say. That
is a fabulous tip. That is all I have for you. Do you have any other final advice you'd like to include?
No, I appreciate it. Those are very good questions. I think that'll do it for me, I think. Yeah, hopefully you can get some good stuff out of that. I think that, you know, I think between all the other people that I'll be interested in seeing the article, because there's a lot I can learn on Instagram too. It's still something that it's still third on my priority list behind LinkedIn and Facebook in terms of my experience. So I'm still learning on it as we go as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Corey.
My pleasure, Mel. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for serving. I appreciate you, all you're doing for NSA. You rock.
As do you.